Welcome back, everyone, to Vox Markets. My name is Paul, and I'm delighted again to be able to speak to CEO Vic Kist of Saietta, a pioneering technology firm aiming to disrupt the global EV market with its groundbreaking axial flux electric motors. So welcome, Vic.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. And yeah, it's exciting times, and it's about time that we update the market.
Yeah, well, it has been massive happening, hasn't it, since we last spoke in July, not least today's positive operational update. But before we sort of dig through the details, can you just quickly remind investors the key application areas and USPs of Saietta's electric motors?
So we focus on lightweight mobility. What we believe in is that the electrification of everything is a bottom-up approach. It started with bicycles, then it was mopeds, and now we're ready to go into those lightweight motorcycles. And it's not happening in Europe. It's not happening in the UK. It's in Asia. Millions and millions of those bikes are on the road. They're extremely polluting. And we knew this 4 years ago. So we reinvented the electric motor. We patented it. We've now listed the company on the stock exchange, and we're basically bringing that IP around the globe at that market segment.
Yeah, well, as I say, you raised £37.5 million, didn't you, in July at £1.20, and the share's actually at £2. So it's gone pretty well. Now, can you just take us through some of the sort of highlights, the operational updates? Let's start with the sort of this new contract, actually, with the electric assisted vehicles, which seem to be sort of quite revolutionary, really, for sort of replacing the white van man on the road.
I mean, that project gets me so excited. I mean, we tried to work with RE in Israel a couple of years ago. They're busy. They've now done a SPAC. They're doing all sorts of things. But as you remember from our listing and our videos on YouTube, we made our own version, and in fact it has that in-wheel motor inside. And because of our extreme market demand, I mean the amount of contracts that we have under review, as in wow, we really have to be precious with our time and be laser focused. The partner that we started this brainstorm with a couple of years ago is actually Eve, and they've done fantastically well on a little pedelec that you're allowed to park on the side of the road. And what it's missing is effectively that clever platform to take it from that depot on the M25 around London and then bring those goods in crates into the city and hand them over to the pedelecs. And that intermediate vehicle, that's the Lynx vehicle. And it's basically our British version of showing the world of how to do last mile delivery goods. And we secured the exclusive supply contract for that. Fantastic.
They're already sort of selling, aren't they, the Ebikes in London? We've sort of seen those around with various DPD and people like that, and all kinds of different partners from their website anyway.
They're in production. They need to scale up. Obviously, they're looking at us as a role model, as in wow, what Saietta have done. Let's pay attention. And then Adam, the owner, I know really well, and he's going places. So let's show the world how to get rid of all these white transit vans in suburbia transporting air around, basically. I mean, that can't be green, can it?
No. And I guess, what are sort of the advantages of the in-wheeled motors? I'm guessing that sort of gives people more cargo area as well, don't they, on these platforms of the vehicles?
We know that batteries are heavy, and they will be heavy for the foreseeable future. And if you can create a flat platform, it's much easier to construct a cheap battery. Yeah. So the only space left really is inside the wheel. And let's be honest about it, combustion engines you couldn't put in the wheel. But in this transition to electric drive, this is the moment to basically promote in-wheel motors. And that's, to be honest, why I joined Saietta in 2017. If your motor looks like a wheel, maybe you should put it in the wheel.
And just moving on then, so how are things developing with the in India and the joint venture, and talking with sort of the OEMs, and likewise with the licensing tender process in China?
Yeah, it's India. First of all, we've been to one of the main tech centers in Europe. We demonstrated the bikes; they love them. It's raining RFI, so request for information. And Kabir was with me actually. We were at the LCV Show in London. Huge success. And he, for the first time, was able to travel to the UK again. We spent some quality hours together. The joint venture, as far as I'm concerned, is done. They are the partner for us. He's aiming for a huge market penetration, and basically those first bikes are already on the post to India. And with that company, we can increase our capacity because we can't serve the whole world on our own. We need partners around us. Because of that success and the results of the IPO, because don't forget, and maybe financial people forget this, but me coming from startup world, if you are a little limited company, the big OEMs won't place an order with you. But when you have the funds in the bank and you are through that DD process, instant credibility. So based on that, we've already concluded that we've got enough on our plate. There is some fantastic opportunities coming in. So we need to slow down a little bit on China. My advisors have also said, like, let's be really sure about China before we go there. And there's plenty to do in India anyway. So we've not signed anyone in China. We are still dancing with a couple of very powerful companies. But again, it would be nice to meet those people face to face. And it's only now that we can start traveling again. So yeah, it's India.
And what investment will you need for, say, India for the joint venture, or you put in the IPR into it, and they basically buy build the actual motors and the finished product?
No, that's the nice thing about Kabir, who owns Padmini. He's the biggest pragmatist on the planet. He can create production lines with very little funds. So the basis of the joint venture, which is also in our prospectus, we already reserved £1 million. So he's putting $1 million in, we are putting $1 million in. That gets us into the market. If we then land a massive order, we can also always fund more, basically, to grow faster.
Right, and then the Chinese one, it's a licensing deal. So effectively, the partner that you choose presumably will do most of the upfront investment, and you'll send them a sort of like you'll collect a royalty and give them the technology and help them to actually build them.
Or JV. I've been studying how VW went into China, because obviously we as the Westerners are like, oh, China is scary. So I've invested a lot of time and surrounded myself with the right advisors to make sure that we don't have to knee-jerk anymore. It's like if we go into China 6 months later, the market is still there. That's not a problem, but you have to choose the right partner. Now, with the future funding opportunities within Saietta itself, I must say my brain, the IPO has allowed my brain to morph more towards joint ventures in the future than just cold licensing.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
We'll see.
Yeah, and then bringing it sort of nearer the home shores, say in Europe, you just quickly talk through the progress being made on the sort of electric motorboat market, sort of there, because that seems to be sort of like a real opportunity.
It really is. It's we always said we're going to put the first prototypes in the water this summer, and we did. In fact, I am currently in Amsterdam, and behind the office there is the water, and the 3 boats are there. The competitor boat,
okay.
our version, and just to meet market demands, we've done an inboard version as well. There's a lot of boats out there, and they're like, well, we don't want an outboard motor, we want an inboard motor. So we quickly put a frame together and put it in the boat, and even the guys from the industry based around here, they're just like, I want this. I want this right now.
And what are the margins likely to be like on the boat side? I'm guessing because it's sort of like a higher value item, it's sort of like you can justify a higher margin.
It's let's say I can sell the motor for X. I put it into a marine application, and I can charge X at least ×5, if not ×10. Basically, it's lower volume. It's quite intense because a lot of boats are different. So you can't just like Heroes making 7.5 million motorbikes, and every single one is the same. But especially the outboard and going head on with Torpedo. I mean that was always the mission we wanted to accomplish. We are launching our own Saietta sub-brand at the Mets in Amsterdam in November. So we'll be there with the press, and we'll tell the world all about it.
And presumably, I mean, the axial flux electric motor for a motorboat has all the same USPs as it does for a 2 or 3 wheeler, because it's sort of like lightweight, better performance, and presumably easier on the battery, isn't it? Presumably.
The beauty is that the prop, like on the tarmac, you can lock a vehicle against the wall and then really draw the current. And that's when you can burn the power electronics. In a boat, that doesn't happen. The prop just turns, basically. So therefore, the power electronics guys were testing over the last 2 months, and they were like, this current profile is so smooth. It's like, it really you give it current and it starts turning. So from a cost point of view, we can reduce cost because it's not as harsh as the tarmac traction industry segment.
And I guess it's very silent as well, which is always good if you're sort of like a passenger on a boat. Lovely. Now, also, the high performance car seems to be a new opportunity since, well, certainly an opportunity that's been accelerated since the sort of IPO. Can you just walk us through that one?
Yeah, pleasure. We're about 3 years ahead of schedule with a partner. We were asked to develop a high voltage version, and we were like, no, that's not where the market is. And they were. Could
you give us a bit of? Is it a European partner or an American partner?
I can't say. It's
right,
and they're a good partner. So we basically we've created a version for them, but we have a version for ourselves as well. And to be honest, the market demand is so strong, especially after that recent takeover, because our friends from Oxfordshire have been taken over by Mercedes, Yassa. And suddenly we've got all these inquiries of people saying like, well, hang on, we don't want to give our concept vehicle design to Mercedes. We need an alternative. And that motor is actually under test in Milton Keynes with a very good testing house. It'll probably take another year before it's in production properly, and it's lower volume. It's more of a niche applications, and the margins and the price is higher, but there is strong market demand. And for us, it's just a variant. We just made it bigger and increased the voltage.
I guess we'll probably see them in a few years on the E-Formula circuit, won't we? We sort of like really fast cars, because they're super performance, aren't they? I guess.
Well, we're quite adamant that we like the Microsoft model. So we had a fantastic meeting yesterday with the Formula student people, and we really like young engineers to start working with our tech, because that's almost like a natural flow of people coming into the company. Because that's the biggest challenge, recruitment. It's like we thought we were going to go into a recession. It's like, honestly, you have to fight for the right staff. It's the climate is good.
Yeah. And just on that one, then, because I see you've also announced some sort of key hires, but also then sort of continued with the progress in terms of your production facility, or your pilot production facility and your testing facility. You just talk through the infrastructure you've been putting in, the capability. You're also sort of like, because you've got so many moving parts.
Yeah, it is and it isn't. It's compare it to an average combustion engine. It's got a lot more parts than an electric motor. So everything in life is relative. Yeah. But I must again, I really hope that these interviews educate the London Stock Exchange and investors that basically taking a company like Saietta to go straight from basically like Series A onto the stock market is and skipping the VC stage is truly I am so grateful for that. The result of that, suddenly you can hire people that you couldn't dream of hiring like 12 months ago. And I didn't even recruit. They rang me and they said, right, you're ready, I'm joining. I was like, wow. All right. So that is but the first thing we've done, and again, my chairman is a wonderful coach to me, and I've known him for 15 years, and I listen to him. And the first thing we decided to do on the 8th of July, straight after the IPO, is increase the investment into the industrialization. And we truly have hired the best of the best within the motor design and the power electronics design. And what those guys have achieved in 8 weeks' time by reducing the cost that we always predicted But obviously you do have to modify the drawings to then make it reality and get the confirmation of the supplier. And we've done it, basically. It's like they've changed some stuff that I thought was impossible. And indeed, in 8 weeks' time, and that's that wonderful British motorsport mentality. The money is there, the tools are there, let's do it, basically.
Fabulous. And what about sort of like, say, the building out or getting the contract sorted, the development for the testing facility and the production facilities and stuff? Is that all going to track, is it?
No complaints anywhere. It's our head of test is on board. He was already on board in July. He's got the first dynos on order. We've got the planning permission sorted. There's still some discussions about because my ambition of making the entire site carbon neutral, not only the most efficient motor, the most recyclable motor, but also showing the world that you can make it sustainable. And I was talking to Bays about that yesterday, and they were like, oh wow, this is happening in the Midlands. I said, come and visit and bring your helmet. And they will. But it's head of test is in place. We've hired the right head of production, so he's joining. We've already set up the first line. The first machines are on order. And because we've all been doing this for years, it's like second nature to us. Could you just give us a bit of remiss of me not to ask, how did the trade show go this last week in Leicestershire? Because it's such a big exhibition of the of the industry and an opportunity for Saietta. What was the sort of feedback from customers and partners and stuff? Fantastic. I really like the LCV show. It's a bit of a home match for us, of course, because it's just around the corner. But what is wonderful to see, and again, I remind the government people of this almost on a daily basis, it's that EIS investment scheme that you have in the UK. The result of that you see at that show. And we've seen those companies like 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they were all startups. All of the motors on the show were dummies. And now people are like drowning in contracts. Everybody's sold out. And doing very well. But all of them turn around to us as in like, wow, you've done an IPO. And it's like, it's elevated us to another level. But less international visitors, of course, because people struggle with like getting in and out of the country. But still, I was overwhelmed. Good show.
Yeah. Well, it does seem as though Oxford and the UK seems to be a sort of technology cluster for all things electric across the world, actually, because of that heritage, isn't it, in all things automotive? And we just love cars, don't we, and bikes and all that kind of stuff. So
it's your twisty roads. For me as a Dutchman, basically, like, where are the roads the best? It's the UK.
And so, just when we put all this together, in say just hypothetically, in 5 to 10 years, what sort of like shape might the business be? Whether that's, I know you might not even give us specific figures, but just sort of like an idea of where the business could be in market share or sort of like turnover or anything like that. How would you see it sort of like in 2025 or 2030? Probably 2030 would be a better perspective once that's sort of the whole transition of sort of combustion engines to electric 2 or 3 wheelers and cargo vehicles has passed through.
Mission number 1 is cleaning up the air and making a significant contribution. So if my crystal ball is correct, I would envisage that we have a healthy electric drive tech center in the UK. The export product is the motor, how to make it, and how to make it sustainable. And we basically sell that around the world. I would envisage a number of joint ventures around the globe. And from there, we can basically manufacture and retail into that part of the world, because making locally is also green. From a marine point of view, I would expect to be at least level with Torqeedo, if not better, because we know our product is going to be significantly cheaper and more robust, because we don't put the motor under the water, which is a silly idea. I can't really see the ceiling. I've always been able to see ceilings on every venture I've done, but this one is like, wow. Let's get ready.
Yeah, well, I'll just sort of point investors. I mean, I've done some very hypothetical sort of numbers, and I just pitched it that you've only won 5% of the 2 or 3 wheeler scooter market in sort of 10 years' time, excluding all the boat stuff and the high performance cars and the cargo stuff, because it's difficult to actually put in numbers. If you only did 5% of that market, the shares would justify sort of over £10. So, and they're currently £2, having gone up 60-70% since the IPO. So overall, there's still masses of opportunity, even though they've done well in 3 months. So investors might want to have a quick sort of like do some hypotheses themselves. But just in terms of sort of future news flow, just finally, Vic, how should investors think of sort of the contracts and sort of like completing the joint venture sort of timeline, and likewise the one in China, the tender? When is that likely to sort of like just over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I've got my own target list. Like I've marked the anniversary of the IPO. So the 7th of July next year, I want to achieve certain things. Do remember, this is automotive, and automotive is very dynamic from the outside. It's quite conservative from the inside. What we see is happening is that there is a huge vacuum in the supply chain appearing. So a lot of OEMs, they've been buying powertrains from certain companies, and they're using the switch to electric to have a fresh start. And we benefit from that. The fact that we can raise more funds, so if we land a massive contract and we can raise more funds to keep our ownership of that contract, or at least in a joint venture, that is extremely unique, and that I had the contact with Canaccord about that is outstanding. I can't give you figures. I can't give you figures.
No, but, exactly.
We have stopped playing with the little boys. We're only talking to the big boys. You either are a robust company with a robust product portfolio, you want to go electric, you want our tech, we can talk. You're a startup, sorry, we're sold out. So that's pretty much, and that's hard. Saying no to business is really, really difficult, but we have to keep that focus. I don't know. I would like to be the size of Bosch in 40 years' time.
Or bigger.
Or bigger, yeah.
I know. Yeah. Well, it is quite interesting, actually, because when Mercedes, you just say, bought Saietta, they made a statement that they weren't just going electric first. They're actually now going only electric by 2025, which has got to play to your technology. So
the most exciting bit of information I've seen since the IPO, and I had a couple of guys from Silicon Valley come to present their new battery tech, because obviously we always look at the battery tech, because we know that the minute the battery tech becomes either affordable, lighter, safer, less lithium, whatever, I'm not a battery specialist. And they showed me the status of solid state battery development, and I was like, oh my God, because the minute that those batteries are on the market, then there is no need anymore to have that diesel, that combustion engine. I mean, why do you need to combust something to move along the road? We're following that closely, because it's just like that anyone who can bend a piece of copper is sold out when that moment comes.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to hearing all about that one when that comes through, and also sort of like other news flow. So thanks very much for your time again, Vic. Great to hear how progress is going, and please keep it up for all investors, because they're obviously delighted.
And thank you for inviting me again, and see you in probably in a few months' time when we have the next update, or we land a massive contract and I'll ring you sooner.
Okay, thank you very much.